Welcome to Transaction Trending, the Electronic Transactions Association's podcast exploring the cutting edge of payments and fintech. I'm your host, John Losh, Director of Membership and Education here at the ETA. Today, we're discussing the ETA Certified Payments Professional, also known as the ETA CPP. We're going to discuss its significance in the industry and the career development of payments professionals. As payment methods and technology continues to evolve, professional development becomes even more important. ETA created the CPP to set the standard for professional performance and serve as a symbol of excellence within the industry. By earning the ETA CPP, payments professionals showcase their commitment to excellence and join the ranks of the best in the business. Joining us to discuss the ETA CPP is Katie Hackney, Senior Learning and Development Specialist with North, previously known as North American Bank Card. North has been a big believer in the ETA CPP and regularly invest in their workforce by sending large groups of staff through the certification together. This year alone, the organization plans to send more than 60 staff through the process of earning their ETA CPP. Katie, welcome to Transaction Trending. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And I'll point out we actually usually have 70 to 80 each year. So even more than that 60, and the program's definitely growing.
Well, that's incredible. Well, really, before we dive in, just wanted to take a moment to really thank North for the involvement and the investment in the ETA CPP. By continuing to invest back in your staff, I'm sure we'll talk about it here in a moment, but I'm sure that that is really creating a lot of opportunities and showcasing the organization across the industry. So let's take a step back and set the stage a little bit for the audience. Tell us a little bit more about North and the organization's role within the payments industry.
So North very recently rebranded, including a name change from North American Bank Card to North. The new name is not only shorter, catchier, and easier to remember, it also captures our future minded vision and direction. Formerly referred to as NAB, North has been in the payments industry since 1992 under the passionate, driven, and innovative leadership of Mark Gardner, who is still our president and CEO today. We are headquartered in Troy, Michigan, but most of our entities, or not most, some of our entities have their own offices as well. But the majority of our population, it works remotely. That started in the pandemic, and we did really well with it, even including our customer service. We did very well with the shift to working remotely. In terms of our role in the industry, we refer to ourselves as a processor and acquirer. In the early days, North was an ISO, but the company has grown into a multifaceted organization consisting of 12 other companies we were fortunate to acquire along the way. We have a processor in house through EPX, payment gateway companies like Inovio and Paytrace, numerous ISOs specializing in different merchant verticals, and an incredible North hospitality team that's currently piloting a new POS that's been developed in-house. Because of the many companies and the many departments within those companies, from engineering to risk management to support for our merchants and agents, we're like a one-stop shop for prospective merchants, ISVs, ISOs, and sales agents.
So I want to shift a little bit and talk about the why. Why was it so important for North to invest so heavily in the ETA CPP? Was there a strategic initiative, or what was the driving force behind sending much of the workforce into the ETA CPP?
Sure. So, first off, as a company, we truly value learning and development. And that's something I actually took for granted. Working in L&D, of course, I love learning and development, but we've heard from new hires over the years that we kind of set the bar there. So that being said, we have a core value called intellectual curiosity, and we recognize the value of being certified because it indicates to others that we know our stuff. So that, in addition to the value of the learning journey along the way, those are important pieces to us. Our original scope was impacted by budget and focus on certain teams, but we were figuring it out. So now although it's strongly recommended for major accounts and sales teams within the organization, really it's open to everyone, and we're getting a lot of participation from all those different groups.
That's amazing. Can you talk a little bit more about the typical profile? As you said, so many staff are interested in participating. How do you make the determinations? What does that typical profile look like in terms of who gets selected?
Well, what I love is that we don't really have a typical profile. As I mentioned earlier, people come from all different teams. So I like that really the commonality here is we all have a desire to learn. We all have a desire to grow professionally. So what you're going to find is those committed employees. That being said, our CPP program is available to all full time employees in the company who are in good standing and have leader recommendation, of course. And we also host an orientation every March. So, our program, we gear up toward the June exam. That's not to say that we don't have candidates that test later, but that's the focus of our program. And the purpose of the orientation and some of the activities that follow are to help candidates determine, is this the right choice for me right now? So we emphasize the expectations since they are being sponsored by our company. We also emphasize the time commitment that goes into it. And then some of them have had little exposure to payment industry 101. So when they see some of those questions, they're like, you know what, I got to back up here a little bit, work a little bit on my foundation. I'll try again next year. So in terms of the typical employee, going back to that, really, I think our candidates vet themselves.
That's amazing. And I'm sure it creates almost a shared bonding experience amongst those staff who are going through the
Mhm.
program together.
Yep.
That's incredible. So how long has North invested in the CPP for staff? And since that time, has there been any tangible differences that you've seen amongst the staff and kind of the organization at large?
Mhm. So the company started, the first group that went through the program was in 2013. I joined the company in 2015 and have been supporting the CPP program since. And what's happened over the years, we used to start with kind of more of a targeted approach with 20 candidates as a cap. Now we have it open to everyone, and it's just becoming more and more popular. Every time we have new CPs, a company announcement goes out, people are flooding our inbox wanting to learn more. So just the popularity of the program has been a big change and a good change, right? In the right direction there. In addition to that, we have CPP chat groups, one for candidates, one for current CPPs. We have several employee resource groups that ask about CPP. So there's just that constant buzz there that's helping to keep CPP top of mind.
Incredible. I want to shift a little bit. We've talked a lot about the impacts internally, but I want to look externally for just a moment. Have you seen any impacts on how it's enhanced the organization's ability to serve clients? Has it impacted the team's credibility? Can you talk a little bit about the external impacts the CDPP has made?
Sure. And actually, I'm going to start with myself. I work in learning and development, part of people operations, AKA HR. I came to this industry knowing nothing about payments. What I love about the CPP program is that there are 7 different exam domains. So I'm learning and candidates are learning about payment knowledge in all those different areas. So it's helping to bridge that knowledge gap, thereby making us a better point of contact for our customers, right? We can connect the dots for ourselves and others through those conversations. So we're more knowledgeable. That's, of course, a very big piece there.
That's
And then I
incredible.
would say the other piece that helps is just the networking that comes with it. You mentioned earlier it's great to be able to get to know people, and I love this piece because as an organization of 12 companies or 13 companies including North, and being spread geographically across the country, it is incredibly valuable to have the opportunity to get to know people from different teams and from different companies and to know who to go to when you need to help a merchant or an agent or some other third party with information. So, those connections that we make through the program help us better support our audience, our external audience, because we can get that information quicker.
So it really is that it helps not only the individuals, but it helps the team overall because not only do they have more knowledge, but the interconnections between the organization is even stronger through that bond of their shared CPP
Yes.
experience. So that's amazing to hear. Kind of bringing our conversation to a close today, I want to talk about some advice that you might have for others. If there are others in the industry who are trying to send their teams and encourage more throughout their organization to go through the ETA CPP, what advice would you give to those staff?
Well, first and foremost, go for it, right? If you've got that drive and that ethic and you want to continue growing, this is a perfect next step to take. I don't know of any other certification opportunity out there, payments industry related, that is so broad. Everything else I've seen has a narrower focus, and that suits those teams for those reasons. But this is the only one that really gets you well versed across all the industry concepts and topics, etc. The second piece, and this is definitely speaking from experience, make sure you have your technology figured out. So the exam, it's great that it's now available through live online proctoring. It used to be that you'd have to go to a designated testing center, but now that it's through live online proctoring, it's imperative that you have a computer that meets the technical standards. And in our case, what we learned is it has to be a personal computer. Our company prohibits third party access onto the computers. Makes sense for that. And it makes sense with what ETA is trying to accomplish too. Not a big deal. It just means get your ducks in a row. Make sure you have a personal computer, a place to test from, private with nobody else around, and look at some of the other technical components as well before you commit. And then the last piece I cannot stress enough, and that has to do with the learning component. Having supported this program for really the duration of my career at NAB, aka North, Uh, I used to really bend over backwards trying to help everyone find every single answer and every single resource that they needed. But I've learned that there's a fine line between enablement and empowerment. So the candidates who do best are the candidates who truly own their learning. They're the ones that designate time to study independently, that form their own study groups and attend those study group calls. They're the ones that, when they have questions, rather than going to the program director, they are identifying subject matter experts from across the company or across the candidate pool. So you really have to take accountability for your learning and just make it happen. And when you do, not only are you most likely to get certified, but just the knowledge and the experience you get from it is invaluable.
Well, Katie, we really appreciate your time today and kind of speaking with our audience about how North has invested not only in the CPP, but really in the professional development and, kind of uplifting your whole workforce. So just thank you so much for your time and for your support of the ETA CPP.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you.
That brings us to an end of today's episode of Transaction Trending. We'd like to thank our guest, Katie Hackney, Senior Learning and Development Specialist with North, for sharing more about the company's journey with the ETA CPP. Now that electronic payments are ubiquitous across society, it's increasingly important to invest in our workforce and continue to serve both businesses and consumers. The ETA CPP represents a significant milestone in an individual's payments journey, and the ETA is honored to continue supporting the professional development of our industry. For those looking to learn more about the ETA CPP or our other educational resources like the online Payments 101 and 201 courses, visit us at electran.org. I'm John Losh, and until next time, keep innovating and continue investing in your payments journey.